Everybody ready? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and update you on the ongoing investigation, then I'll turn it over to Sheriff Gualteri so he can tell you about his detectives. So again, last night we investigated the shooting that happened in Pinellas Park. Update you on the information that we have now, and I know some was sent out to you. So the victims is a Corporal Matthew Aitken, and the sergeant that fired the shot was Sergeant Vivolo. I hope I said that correctly. The suspect is a Zion Bostick, white male, born 3/2/2000. A little bit about his history. He has an extensive history. Last week, he was supposed to go to court on 3/7/23. He did not go to court. The judge issued 3 warrants for his arrest. He was looking at a possible 5 years in prison. He told his mom that he would not go back to prison. Again, last night during the shooting, what we can tell you is now that as the officer cleared with his K9 around the corner, Corporal Atkins, we could see the suspect fire at least 3 rounds, one hitting the corporal in the neck, one in the hand, and one in the leg. Again, the officer had, the deputy had surgery this morning at 10:30, and the sheriff will brief you more on that. The one handgun was used that shot the deputy was a 9mm. We also found in his front right pocket a .380. That gun was stolen out of an unlocked vehicle in 2018. We also found more ammunition in a backpack that the deceased was carrying. We know 6 rounds were fired, 3 at the K9 handler and 3 at the sergeant on the scene. Again, the dog Taco was not injured during that process. Again, this is an ongoing investigation. We will brief you more as it goes on. With that, I'll turn it over to the sheriff to talk about his deputies.
Thank you, Chief. I just want to thank Chief Holloway and the members of the St. Petersburg Police Department for conducting this investigation. As you know, under the task force agreement, we don't conduct the criminal investigation. It's done by St. Pete because the incident happened south of Almerton Road. And so I'm not going to get into any of the real details because that's for Chief Holloway to address as far as their investigation is concerned. But I'll tell you this much as far as what happened out there last night with Corporal Matt Aitken and Sergeant Jake Viano is that we were very fortunate that Sergeant Viano, who was working to an area just to the north, is a former K9 handler. And he came because Corporal Aitken was getting out to track. And sometimes we have the ability to do this and sometimes we don't, where we have a second deputy that will also run with the handler. And I'm very thankful that Sergeant Viano was able to do that because the outcome, in my mind, unquestionably would have been different if Sergeant Viano hadn't been there. Because as Chief Holloway said, the bad guy really ambushed Corporal Aitken. And when he went down, Sergeant Viano was able to fire and kill the bad guy. And I'm going to talk about Corporal Aitken here for a second, but one of the things I want to stress about what the situation is, and just, people ask when does it end? Well, it doesn't. We continue to face these challenges, and we're going to continue to face these challenges. And Chief Holloway, mentioned this, but think about this. Here's this bad guy, and he was 22 years old. So I'll say it again. He's 22 years old. So at 22 years old, he's been arrested 18 times on 34 different felony charges, 22 different misdemeanor charges. He first went, and you got to try to do this. You got to beg your way to do this. He first went to the Florida Department of Corrections, to the state prison system at 17 years old, because he was charged by the state attorney as an adult and sentenced as a youthful offender to the state prison system at 17. He gets out. What's he do? Commits more crime, including grand thefts, drug crimes, committing crimes with firearms. He goes back to prison again. So a second time in state prison. When does he get released? A year ago yesterday. So on the anniversary of his release, got released March 12th of 22. So a year ago, he gets released from prison, and he's out there engaged in this activity. And at some point in time, and because it's an active investigation, and the chief isn't going to release the video, which I support his decision because it's an active investigation. But I've seen the video, and we will release it at some point. And people need to see what bad guys like this do to good cops who are just doing their job, trying to get a guy who's committing more crime, who at 22 years old has been charged with 34 felonies, 22 misdemeanors, and been arrested 18 times, and is a 17-year-old been in the state prison system. And he's got 2 guns on him and tried to execute a deputy sheriff. And the deputy sheriff they tried to execute is Corporal Matt Aitken. Matt has been with us since 2006. He's been in K-9 for a long time. He's been in K-9 going on 12 years. He's been a corporal since 2018. He was a trainer for us for a long time. Matt is, thankfully, one of our more experienced deputies, one of our more experienced K-9 handlers. And because of his experience and his grit, Matt survived this. But he's in the hospital, had surgery this morning, and right now appears to be okay, that he's going to pull through this. But he's still got a lot of medical issues, a lot of things to deal with, and he's just dealing with that. And his wife, he's got a young daughter, his mom and dad are at the hospital with him. And when we leave here, I'm going to go over to the hospital and see him. But it's because of Matt, who he is, Sergeant Jake Viano, and who he is and what he did, that the outcome here wasn't different. And it was on the cusp of being different. We'd be talking about a dead deputy if things had changed just slightly. And if Viano hadn't run with him, he wouldn't be here today, because Viano was able to kill this guy before he fired additional rounds into Matt when he was laying on the ground. So we're very thankful. And again, my thanks to Chief Holloway and St. Pete Police Department for conducting a very thorough investigation. And we'll continue to keep you updated as far as Matt's condition is concerned. We just ask people to keep him in their thoughts and in their prayers. And we all got to really ask ourselves, what is going on in this world when you got a 22-year-old who's been in state prison twice, been arrested a number of times, this guy has. And I can tell you exactly what happened, is as the chief said, is that he was due to be in court last Tuesday. And from what I know from talking to the state attorney, he was going to be, there had been some type of a arrangement worked out, and this is piecing some of this information together, but it had been worked out between his lawyer and the state and the court, and he was going to plea because he's looking at a 5-year minimum mandatory for being what's called a PRR. It's a recidivist. And so he was going back, and he simply just didn't want to go back to prison, and that's what he told his mother. So in lieu of not committing more crime and being accountable for his crime and doing his 5-year minimum mandatory for being a PRR, he decided he was going to try and kill a deputy sheriff, 2 deputy sheriffs actually, because 3 of those rounds were fired at Viano and 3 at Aitken. So type of people out there that we deal with. So anyway, as far as Matt's concerned, again, just ask everybody to keep him in your thoughts and prayers. We'll keep you updated on his condition, and at the right time, when the investigation is concluded and we can, we'll show you the body cam video, and it's pretty startling. Unless you have any more questions for me, I'll turn it back over to Chief Holloway. So I talked to Sergeant Viano this morning. He's doing okay. I think he's very thankful for what he was able to do, and really he saved Corporal Aitken's life. And Sergeant Viano did a stellar job of being able to assess that threat. He fell down, he got up, and was able to fire and shoot the guy and kill him, and really saved not only his own life, but he saved Matt's life.
Any other questions? And just like the sheriff said, I just want to reiterate that to you, that these 2 deputies were ambushed. The deceased was waiting for them. He picked a place and a time where he was going to try to kill these 2 deputies. Thank you.